All right, what's going on, YouTubers? This is Zen here from Zen Multiverse, and I hope you're having a great day. So, we're going to talk about one of the scariest Iron Man stories I've ever read, and this comes in the form of Darkhold Iron Man. So, as we know, billionaire, playboy, and genius industrialist Tony Stark, he was kidnapped during a routine weapons test. So, with that, his captors attempted to force him to make weapons of mass destruction, but instead he created an Iron Man suit in order to save him. But little do we know that this story happens very differently than the one that we know. So, with that, Tony was able to escape, and he was found by Pepper Potts and the likes of Jarvis, who is not an AI at this point, um, is just his butler. So they came over and they noticed that Tony was basically like bleeding out, very hurt, and he was stuck in this suit. So they tried to get off the suit, but instead, Tony decided to basically kind of stave off what they're doing. And he took off the helmet and thus forth. But did he take off all of the suit? No. So he didn't take off all of the suit. One of the things that happens is that Tony next decides to not go to the hospital, but to basically utilize the suit in a way to upgrade it so that it could basically do a bioscan on himself and then heal him. So, from the Mark 1, he starts on working on the Mark 2. So a couple days later, Pepper Potts comes in and she's looking at him. She's like, "Why do you still have on that suit?" So, Tony's basically saying, "Hey, I'm I'm working on X, Y, and Z, and it's come to fruition." So she comes in and Tony's like, "Hey, look, so he hurts himself on purpose." And when he hurts himself on purpose, the suit kind of scans and begins to heal him. Pretty cool so far. But then they notice that he he can't really take off the suit because when he takes off one of the pieces of the suit, um, skin starts to come off, right? And not just a little bit of skin, but a lot of skin starts to come off. And he's like, "Well, this must be a glitch in the AI system, so we're gonna have to fix it." So him and Pepper Potts begin on working on some form of just upgrade to it. But along that, Tony starts to work on it in a methodical way that makes Pepper and also Jarvis and the rest of them question like what's going on. So he's working on this upgrade, and Pepper is doing her thing. And about a couple days later, they're checking on Tony and wondering like what is going on. So lo and behold, they go into the room and they see Tony, but they see more than just Tony. They see the suit, and the suit is on him, both head and also throughout his whole body. And the next horrific scene is shown where you remember when we talked about seeing that skin and things of that nature. They see nothing but skin, and they see. I have to put this in wordings, in for lack of better words, just a whole bunch of skin juice coming out of the suit itself. And Tone and Pepper's like, what are you doing? Like, take off the suit. And Tony basically is talking in this kind of robotic voice, and he's saying, "Well, why would I ever want to take off the suit?" So they're talking, and they're like, "What's going on?" And the suit, and he's saying that the suit is basically making him better, right? It's making him um, just upgraded. So apparently, what the suit is doing, it's finding errors, and the error that is found within Tony is basically his biological matter. So what it's doing is replacing his biological matter for just the robotics and the armor itself, right? So basically, the AI is integrating with Tony, and she is horrified. When I say she is horrified, she is horrified. And we get a couple of panels and scenes later within the story where um, basically he locks them out, right? He locks them out to the point where uh, he's doing something, but then what happens next is he invites them in, and they notice that there are many suits that are being made, and apparently he tries to capture them, and he successfully captures Jarvis and someone else, but not Pepper yet. She manages to escape here, but the suits then encapsulate Jarvis and a couple others, and they are becoming these automatons, meaning that the suit takes over them, strips them of their skin and basically who they are as human beings, and integrates them into these suits. Now, at this point, when I'm reading the story, it was creepy and even horrifying to like imagine this stuff happening, because the way Tony captures them, it's like they have no choice. They cannot get out of these suits. These suits are basically prisons for them, and the prisons are now taking over their mind and body. So they try to capture Tony, and the rest of them try to capture Pepper, and she manages to get out to a point where she leaves. But along this, Tony is now making multitude of suits, right? Because he is now going for something that's a little bit more, and that is to make a whole bunch of Iron Men, right? And these Iron Men or Iron Women, uh, he's just making the suits, and he wants to take over, right? Which is probably the scariest part, because he makes a whole bunch of them, and he brings them out to the public. And basically, uh, there is something that's being said, but we're not going to get into that, because what it really is about is the next part is just a whole bunch of suits that are capturing these people, bringing them into themselves, and then again assimilating them into automatons where they no longer are humans. They're, I want to say, even less than human, because what's left is basically these iron suits with just pus and a whole bunch of skin and basically biomatter that's being just pouring out of these suits, right? And I think that only thing that's truly left over is more or less their brains, right? And we get a scene where basically Pepper Potts is like, Tony, like, you have to stop, right? And Tony basically catches her and brings her back into his laboratory, and he's like, he doesn't use this for word, but he's like,
I got you. Like, everything will be all right, Pepper. Everything will be all right.
and it comes to the end of the story, and let me tell you all, this is one of the scariest stories. Not so much of the storytelling itself, but if you look at the artwork and everything that's happening, it's this is not a happy ending, right? Usually, when you get a couple of stories like this, you're like, oh man, this is going to be a great ending. We're not too sure what's happening, but the dark hole stories are basically how it sounds. It's dark, right? And this is kind of a story where we see what's happening, and Tony's reading the dark hole, and he gets a variation of what his story is, and that is, what if it took over? What if the suit took over, right? And the aesthetics, the artwork, everything lends itself to just a real tales of suspense, right? That you're on suspense while reading this book. If anything, I would say this is a 10 out of 10 book, one of the most horrific Iron Man stories I have ever read. But with that being said, everyone, if you want to see me do more creepy horror, Marvel, and DC stories, let me know in the comment section below, and I'll catch you all later for the next one. Later, team.